Welcome to Nerd Confirmed. I'm going to be talking today about Xbox 2020 and beyond. What is Xbox now in 2020 and what does it mean going forward now that they're going to be releasing the Xbox Series X this holiday season in 2020? I think it's important to look at what Xbox currently is versus what it has positioned itself to be, considering we're going into a new console generation and they're going to be leading the charge from what we can see. They've come out early talking about the Xbox Series X, showing off a little bit at the Game Awards at the end of 2019, and also just in the last day of this recording of this video, releasing some specs about the hardware. And we know a little bit about the games. We know about their 15 studios, in-house studios that they've purchased and are having develop exclusive Xbox content. I think we're going to be in for something really special with Xbox, so let's take a look. I wanted to go over what the Xbox Series X hardware looks like based on what we've been told by Xbox themselves and sort of go through what that might mean moving forward, considering what we've had with Xbox One and where we're going now with the new generation. The initial specs were just released the last day, and they're talking about a lot of different buzzwords that some people on the internet have kind of keyed into. Is we always hear about more teraflops, we always hear about more resolution and everything, and that's true. Every console generation we've ever had has really ushered in better graphics and everything in our games. Xbox's steps seem to be closing the gap a little bit between consoles and PCs, just a little bit, but in my opinion they're not really going to get there all the way, and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of this video. Just some of the initial specs they talked about in terms of hardware and sort of services. 12 teraflops GPU, which is double the Xbox One X. Variable rate shading, which is, their way of saying devs have more control over the frame rates and graphics that you see. Hardware accelerated DirectX ray tracing. Quick resume for multiple games. So this is sort of ties in with hardware more than anything. They're going to be able to utilize the system memory in such a way that you can have multiple games sort of suspended as you switch between apps and games and turn off the console and come back, which I think is really great actually. For me, in a household with 5 people, 4 of which are very regular gamers, we're constantly switching between different games. My daughter's playing one game, my youngest son is playing a different game, my oldest son is playing a different game, and I'm got my game that I'm playing, or games, sometimes multiple. So it remains to be seen how many multiples that is, but even just having 2 or 3 available to suspend at a time is really cool. That's something that's really neat. I find that really useful. Sometimes I might not be at a place, especially since my gaming time can be a little choppy based on, family schedules, kids' bedtimes, other factors. So I can't always just be in that perfect spot in a game where I can save, and I need to kind of put it down, but I'm going to lose my progress on this last 20 minutes that I was doing on this level. I can just sort of leave it and come back to it, and they can have their game sort of suspended where they were too, especially if they're having kind of a hard time. You can jump back in with them and they don't have to redo huge chunks of levels, which is kind of discouraging to them sometimes, and I get that. So I find that useful. Moving on, we've got smart delivery. So smart delivery is more of a service, but it is tied into the technology in the way that smart delivery is their way of making sure that the version of the game you are playing on the Xbox, the version of Xbox that you're playing, is optimized for that version. So if you are playing, for instance, Cyberpunk 2077, when that comes out in September and you buy it for Xbox One X or Xbox One, you will be playing the Xbox One version of that game, and your version of Xbox One is going to be playing it in the best graphical power that it possibly can, right? It's going to be in the best resolution and best processing that it can for that console. When you buy your Xbox Series X, you will be able to play that game without having to buy it again. You already own it for Xbox. You just download it onto your Series X, and now it's going to suddenly be the Xbox Series X version. You bought it on the Xbox One X once. You will also own the Xbox Series X version of that game. That's really cool. Smart delivery They said in their press release they're committed to as many first-party exclusive titles as they can taking part in smart delivery. So Halo Infinite is the example they gave in their press release. CD Projekt Red came out after Xbox talked about it yesterday, and they sent out a tweet saying, you buy Cyberpunk 2077 on Xbox One X, it's the only time you have to buy it. You own that game on Xbox Series X. You do not need to buy it again. So that's a third-party developer jumping in on the smart delivery platform. I don't necessarily see smaller developers really willing to say, yeah, only buy our game once, no big deal. There's money to be made, and they're leaving money on the table. CD Projekt Red is leaving a ton of money on the table doing this, but it's also just a great thing for fans. AMD Zen 2 and RDNA 2 architectures, 4 times the processing power of the Xbox One apparently. SSD storage, that is going to be such a big thing going forward. You're going to absolutely need SSD for the massive file sizes. We already have games hitting 100 gigabytes. 100 gigabytes on current gen consoles for full downloads, all DLC, everything. I think that we're going to need SSD storage for quicker retrieval of the data we need for the games, but also that drives the cost up. Obviously, the cost of SSD is coming down as technology ages and improves. Whether or not that storage is going to be able to be swapped in and out with proprietary hardware boxes or something else remains to be seen. Dynamic latency input is going to be a way for Xbox to reduce the latency between the controller and the console. So inputs on the controller will just respond faster on the screen. So in terms of the compatibility hardware-wise and sort of software-wise, Xbox has said that everything that you can play on Xbox One and all backwards compatible Xbox 360 and OG Xbox games, the original Xbox backwards compatible games, will be compatible with Series X. So I imagine all of the backwards compatible 360 and OG Xbox games that already exist is what they mean. I don't know if there'll be any additional other than the ones they continually update, which is at a fairly regular rate. But I think that it doesn't mean, some people think, oh, everything I have on 360, I can play on this now. I don't necessarily think that's what they mean by that. I think that it still needs to be developed and respect a little bit for it to work on the Series X, just like they do with the Xbox One. So if it can work on the Xbox One, it will work on the Xbox Series X, I think is the way to look at it. Don't expect anything too extra unless they come out and surprise us and say, yeah, every 360 disc, throw it in there. It'll work. It'll play it. Cool. That would be amazing, right? So many people would be so excited. There's so many games for the 360. It was such an amazing console and such a huge library that so many people have so many of those discs still. And you can get a lot of them for really cheap right now too. So that would be really cool. If you don't already own it digitally, a lot of people have stuff on disc. That would be really cool. So that's really neat. Backwards compatibility, I think, is going to be a given, mainly because of what Xbox has been doing the last few years with their backwards compatibility initiative, basically making sure people have 360 games and Xbox, OG Xbox games to play. That's such a huge thing for their console. I'm shocked that PlayStation hasn't put more emphasis into doing that. They want you to keep buying the upgraded, remastered versions of games, which is great, and those have been amazing. That whole movement in remastering classic games and having them play better, look better, everything on current consoles is actually really cool. I really like that. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that. I love the idea of if I bought a bunch of digital games on PlayStation 3, that they just come with me onto PlayStation 4. That didn't happen. I'm hoping that PlayStation does something similar to what Xbox is doing, where if I own the game digitally or if I have the disc, I can just play it on the new PlayStation, And the Xbox is, for the most part, going to be doing that. Basically, any Xbox One disc you have is going to work on the Xbox Series X. So that's kind of huge. That's really major. I love that. That's Xbox. This is part of the foundation, the underlying structure of what I was talking about. Xbox hasn't had a lot to tout recently big headline wise in terms of, gaining a lot of big momentum chunks on PlayStation. But what they've done is they've built that underlying infrastructure of Game Pass, giving you a huge library of games, backwards compatible games, that classic games that people love, you can play on your Xbox One. Giving you game sharing is huge. Being able to share games among your family members on multiple Xboxes in your house. It really only works great with two Xboxes, but still, two Xboxes, buy the game once, and you share it across your household. My son and I can buy the game once. My son and I can play each other online with our own accounts, having bought the game once. That's really, really great. Obviously, there's a way to do that on PlayStation 2. I'm not saying PlayStation doesn't do that. But I have a feeling that Xbox is going to be pushing that even further. The fact that you can buy a game on Xbox and you have it on PC and vice versa. You saw that with the Gears games and some others. That's huge. Being able to play the game kind of wherever you want within the Xbox ecosystem, that's really at the core, I think, of what Phil Spencer and the Xbox team has been trying to do for these last few years. They're trying to give access to gamers to get to games much easier. They want you to play within their ecosystem. They see themselves as an ecosystem, a gaming ecosystem, more than just this console box. Like, oh, this is where we're at now. So if you had the Xbox One, wow, that was last generation. Too bad, time to pony up the dough. That's not so much the case. They want you to get on their subscription service, Game Pass. You have Xbox Live Gold membership with that. You get free games every month with that. And you get access to hundreds of games on the Game Pass for literally hundreds of games, including games that release day and date on Game Pass. So the day that game comes out, it's available on Game Pass, either on Xbox and or PC. Amazing. We had The Outer Worlds was on Game Pass. Untitled Goose Game, just won Game of the Year at DICE Awards. The Outer Wilds was considered one of the best games made this past generation. We just got a Plague Tale. Ape Out is on there. There's so many huge games that people I don't think you realize are on Game Pass. Like, oh, I can play that on Game Pass. I've literally bought games on the Switch or the PlayStation that I found out like the next day or so that it's like, oh, it's on my Game Pass. What the heck? I didn't know I could play that already. I already owned it. I already have it. Now, it's not true that you own the games on Game Pass. I know, but still, you have access to it. You have access to so many games on this, and this is kind of the underlying structure of what Xbox has been paving now. Now, on top of it, what they're doing is they're building this powerhouse home console, which the Xbox One X is mighty impressive, and for the Xbox Series X to be even more impressive than that, I'm really concerned about price, but if it gives you the power that they claim it will, and it's really more about being within their ecosystem, you're not going to be as worried about having a PC if you don't have one, right? And if you have a good gaming PC, you might not be as worried about owning an Xbox Series X. And I don't really think that Xbox cares all that much. They just want you to see that gaming on their platform is the best place to be, gives you the most value for your money. That remains to be seen, but I really believe that that's what they're doing. I think with these hardware and service options, I think that they've laid the groundwork for there's kind of nothing standing in their way. Once they have this, there's nothing hardware-wise or service-wise really standing in their way. I think they've got kind of the best infrastructure of any gaming ecosystem out there right now. I really, really do. They've just positioned themselves so well. But what have they positioned themselves for? Games. It has to be about the games. Gaming generations are about video games. The games have to be amazing. And if I can get the game on the console that I already love, why do I switch to your console, right? So third-party games aren't going to cut it for Xbox. It's going to be up to exclusives. 15 first-party development studios in-house at Xbox. Xbox exclusive experiences for next generation. 15 of them. We know about Halo Infinite, obviously from 343. We know about Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, which if you haven't played Hellblade 1, play that game. And then, Everwild from Rare. We don't know a ton about that game, but other than that, we don't know a lot. So what they've done is shown us the tracks, right? They've kind of showed us, hey, we built the tracks. And now they've got to show us the train, and the train is the games. That's the thing pushing. That's the thing we care about. Expecting at E3, we're going to get at least 2 or 3 other exclusive games launching on Xbox Series X. And I think we'll have, so that would make 5. So I'm saying Halo Infinite, Hellblade, and then probably at least 3 others. The reason I would say at least 5 is I think that's a decent size number to get people to say, you know what? Sure, I can play all of these games on Xbox One. But for those people who are really interested in the Xbox Series X already, or who are kind of on the fence, 5 exclusive games to Xbox launching with the Xbox Series X is like an exciting thing. That's what people get excited for at console launches. It's like, oh, what new games are going to be put? What new experiences am I going to have when I open my console that first day and I download or I put in the disc for that new game that just came out? That's like, oh, this is helping define the launch of this new generation of consoles. Oh, and going back to Xbox and PC game launches, I think that they're going to make it kind of a priority for a lot of their, especially their first-party exclusive games, to launch on both Xbox and PC. I can see Halo Infinite being a PC launch as well, so that they get as many people on Gamepass early on in the life cycle of the Xbox Series X as possible, and then they just start hammering you with these awesome first-party exclusives from their 15 game studios, where it's like, man, I have this game on this, I play on PC, I got this awesome game. I play on Xbox, I got the same game. Let's play. Like things that get gamers really excited and get them the game instantly without having to worry about it. But then we have these kind of final questions with the Xbox Series X that have yet to be answered, and they may be answered very soon. The biggest one is, what is it going to cost to buy the Xbox Series X? A lot of people think it's going to be $500. A lot of people think it might be $600. I personally think it's going to be $500. I think it's going to be $499 in the US. I don't know how they're going to give you, the 12 teraflops and the ray tracing and the SSD storage without it being kind of expensive to start with. The only thing that makes me think it could go cheaper than that, like $399, is if Xbox is just totally willing to eat cost on it. I know that it came out in the last week or so that it costs a little over $400 per unit to manufacture. That's just manufacturing. That's just making the box. That's not the box that it goes in. That's not all the other stuff. That's not necessarily the marketing and the distributing and the shipping and all that kind of stuff that goes into distributing a product. So obviously the real cost is much higher than that. And lastly, the question is, why buy Series X over PlayStation 5? And I think for people who need the case made to them, Xbox is going to say, we are about the same price probably as the PlayStation 5. We likely are slightly more powerful in terms of hardware and graphical processing, but our Game Pass xCloud, so you can stream games, you will have access to first-party games, your games will play on multiple versions of our consoles, including PCs. It's going to be a value proposition, right? The value is going to be there. I think the quality is still up in the air. We don't know the quality of the games coming out for Xbox yet, so we don't even know if Halo Infinite's going to be good. We sure hope it will be. I don't think anybody's saying, man, I hope Halo sucks. If the quality of the games is there, I think that they've already made their value proposition. They'll make it in full force. So my takeaways from the Xbox Series X to this point, the end of February 2020, before any of the super big major announcements come out for it, it seems like a significant upgrade in processing power from the previous generation. I don't agree with people who said it's kind of just like a weak PC. Probably the best place for Xbox to represent their game service platform. game services as a platform. I think that with Game Pass Ultimate, the backwards compatibility and eventual xCloud streaming, I think that Xbox is just positioning themselves in the best way they ever have to say, hey, it's like now or never. It's like we're either gonna have people fall in love with us again, or we just don't need to be in the game sphere. Like, they're doing stuff that they're offering gamers so many choices for gaming and for getting value out of their gaming time and their money. It's really hard to see them slipping anymore. I think that they're going to be putting a lot of pressure on the PlayStation, which is great. I think that PlayStation needs to be pushed a little bit, even though they've had an amazing generation. Their first-party games are some of the greatest games ever made. I think that PlayStation is going to need a bit of a push to show that they care as much about the value they're offering gamers as they do the quality. PlayStation has been about the quality of the games, and that has until now been paramount, in my opinion. The quality of the games trumps everything else. But when you pair quality with unrivaled value, if Xbox starts to show that game quality, if they get their Horizon Zero Dawn, if they get their Last of Us, if they get their God of War, whatever those games end up being, I think that they are going to rocket ahead of PlayStation in gamer mindshare for value and quality and be the new leader in the console space. It remains to be seen, but I'm very excited for what Xbox is doing this year and beyond with this console. I hope that they keep pushing PlayStation. I love the competition. I love both companies. I love all the console companies, basically. PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox. I own all of them. I own multiples of each of them. It's such a great time to be a gamer. There's so many great games out there, so many value propositions. I really think that giving gamers everything they possibly can at a good value is going to be Xbox's strength, at least to begin the console generation. And I'm excited to see what Xbox Series X has. With that being said, thank you so much for watching Nerd Confirmed, and I'll see you in the next video.